Good morning, BookTube, YouTube. This is Johnny, waking up to another day in the American Empire, the last days of the American Empire. So yeah, I'm waking up. I even haven't written any words in my paper diary. I'm on page 823 this morning. Yeah, I woke up around 8 o'clock and my wife was leaving. My wife is always leaving. She's always going. And so yeah, and I got up, took my morning pills, and I messed with the main computer, checked my email, looked at YouTube, and I thought what I would do is just show you some books I got in the mail. And I went down to the Book Nook, the library used bookstore down the street from where we live. As you all know, for many years I volunteered at the Book Nook. Over 10 years I did it, and then when they remodeled the library last year, I didn't like the setup of the Book Nook. I just didn't care for it. So I no longer volunteer there, but I went down there yesterday. I forced myself to leave the house because I'm just so sick of the world. I don't want to go out there and be in it. But I went down there. Well, first I was going to go get gas for my car because the gas was like $3.09, something like that. And we get a 10 cents off if we go to a certain gas station. So it'd be like $2.98, something like that. So anyway, but there was a train coming and I didn't want to stop for the train. So I just went to the Book Nook. I was going to go get gas and then go to the Book Nook. But then I went to the Book Nook, the library used bookstore, looked around, found 3 books, and spent $10. And then I was going to go to the gas station, but then my feet were killing me, my knees were killing me, and so I decided just to come home and just get gas. Maybe this morning I'll go get gas. Here it is October the 9th, 2025. It is 8:52 in the morning, and the flow of existence, the death flow. So yeah, so this morning I am waking up to another day. It's sunny outside, cold. It's like we had frost during the night. So one of the books, first I'll show you what I'm reading this morning. Well, what I got out to read. I'm not sure if I'll actually read it, but I got, one of the books I got in the mail was a book, it was mentioned in that book on divine, I don't have it in front of me, on Illumination. And it was this book, Christology, Ancient and Modern Explorations in Constructive Dogmatics, edited by Oliver P. Crisp and Fred Sanders, editors. And it mentioned this essay in this book, and I wanted to read it. And it was called, it was an essay I wanted to read in here. The Theoretic Union as Image Deo, something like that. See, it was this essay. I can't even pronounce the word of it. I'm going to show it to you. So it was this essay. That's what I wanted to read. So I got it out. So I got this to read, and then I also want to finish reading Union with Christ and the Life of Faith by Fred Sanders, who's one of the editors of this book. You see his name up there, Fred Sanders. And then I want to finish reading Thomas Goodwin on Union with Christ, Indwelling of the Spirit, Participation in Christ, and the Defense of Reformed Soteriology by Jonathan M. Carter. But I'm not really sure, like I told you, I'm kind of out of it in the morning. Now yesterday I did read some Van Mastricht on the application of redemption in the church in volume 5 of Theoretical Practical Theology. I did read that. But like I said, I don't know, I'm kind of out of it. So the books I got in the mail, well, I finished this, Evelyn 1, last night. Basically, I finished it. And I don't know what I'm going to read as literary fiction. I have so many novels. I have like 3,000. I mean, I have so many novels I could read. I want to read literary fiction, but I'm not really sure what I want to read. So I'm kind of like just not really sure. And I'm almost done with Wild Thing, The Life of Paul Gauguin by Sue Penrix. I almost got I got about 8 pages left in this. And after I finish reading this biography, I'm going to read a biography. Well, first of all, I want to finish this Square Haunting, 5 Writers in London Between the Wars by Francesca Wade. The reason why I want to finish this, as I was almost finished anyway, I'm on the last chapter of this book. And Francesca Wade, she's really this is like a biography on these 5 women between the wars, the First and Second World War. And you have a chapter on the poet H.D., who lived from 1886 and died in 1961. She was a poet. Square Haunting is a square in London where a group of women lived between the wars, one was an academic, one was a poet, writer, and I can't remember what the other one was. I think, but one of them was Virginia Woolf, who I finished that chapter yesterday. There's a picture of Virginia Woolf. So I wanted to, let me see, it mentions here, in the early 20th century, Mecklenburgh Square, a hidden architectural gem in the heart of London, was a radical address. On the outskirts of Bloomsbury, known for anonymous group who lived in squares painted in circles and loved in triangles. The square was home to students, struggling artists, and revolutionaries. In the pivotal era between the 2 world wars, the lives of 5 remarkable women intertwined at the one address: modernist poet H.D., detective novelist Dorothy L. Sayers, classicist Jane Harrison, economic historian Ellen Power, and author and publisher Virginia Woolf. In an era when women's freedoms were vast, expanding, they each sought a space where they could live, love, and above all, work independently. So I wanted to finish this because one of the books I got in the mail was a new biography written by Francesca Wade on Gertrude Stein and afterlife. Now, Gertrude Stein, as you all know, over the years is one of my favorite modernist poet and writers. She, if you're into the early modernism there in Paris, she was a pivotal figure in that time period. She was friends with Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald. She was, the painters, Pablo Picasso. And I have her book on that. Let's see, she wrote this book on Picasso. This was her Parisian apartment. She collected modernist art before it was even became, later on. Her brother Leo Stein was an art dealer, collector, and see, there's a picture of Picasso. So, yeah, I have a big collection of Gertrude Stein, and so I wanted to read this new biography by on her by Francesca Wade, Gertrude Stein, and Afterlife. So I got this. So when I finish reading completely Wild Thing, I'm gonna read this next. So I got that in the mail this week. And then I had this on pre-order, the Brothers Grimm biography by, I can't pronounce it, Schmiesing? I can't pronounce that one. She must be, I don't know who this woman is who wrote this. Let me see. Well, we all know the brothers Grimm was Jacob Grimm and Wilhelm Grimm, and they wrote Grimm's Fairy Tales, which is children's and household tales. Well, we know it as Grimm's Fairy Tales, and so I've always been kind of interested in biography of that time period, and I read reviews of this, and it was a New Yorker Best Book of the Year, and so I just got this. I like reading about just that time period in German in the 19th century. So that's why I got it. But yeah, it's published by Yale University Press. So the Brothers Grimm. Like little blurbs in the back here. First rate, rich in history and insight. This stands as the new authoritative biography on the famed fairy tale collectors. A biography of the Grimm is amply justified, and Schmiesing chronicles their lives briskly, readably, and often vividly. So she's a professor of German and Scandinavian studies at the University of Colorado Boulder. So that's where she lives. That's where she teaches. So I got that, and then as I showed, I got that book on Christology, ancient and modern. So I got those. I got that in the mail. And I got the Brothers Grimm, a biography, and then I got a new biography on Gertrude Stein in Afterlife by Francis Wade. So I don't think I have anything else coming in the mail this week. Next week I got a book, a literary study on Jack Kerouac's book of poetry, Mexico City Blues. I have that coming in the mail. So then I also been reading A Room of One's Own, an essay by Virginia Woolf, and in the back of, because it's mentioned in that chapter on Virginia Woolf, A Room of Her Own. I've always wanted to read it by Virginia Woolf. This is A Room of One's Own and a Common Reader. A common reader is these are essays that she wrote on different writers, like on Jane Austen, an essay Virginia Woolf wrote on modern fiction, an essay on George Eliot, Joseph Conrad. She just wrote different essays, literary essays, Virginia Woolf. So then at the Book Nook, I'm still reading a remarkable collection of angels, A History of the Sixth Gallery Reading by David S. Wills. Really a great book if you're really into Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, the San Francisco Renaissance, poetry Renaissance there. Really good book. I really enjoyed reading this. So the books I got, the Book Nook is, I collect the Penguin Classics, and this is Charles Lamb, Selected Prose. These are essays. He lived he was born in Inner Temple, London, 1775. He died in 1834. I have a biography on Charles Lamb, and also him and his wife, Mary Lamb, they wrote a book on Shakespeare, which I have downstairs. But this is his selected prose. Like there's detached thoughts on books on reading. There is just a bunch of essays. Witches and Other Fears. But just essays. Old and New Schoolmaster. They're just essays. Wordsworth's Excursions. Just different essays. So I got that. And then I picked up this book at the Book Nook, Before the Revolution, America's Ancient Past, by Daniel K. Richter. This is looking at America before, going way back past the colonial period, looking at how America was, explored by the Spain, the Dutch. There was thousands of years of indigenous people lived in America. He looks at just the ancient past of America before it was colonized. So, and it looked really fascinating. Yeah, Indians, Spaniards, French, Dutch, Africans, and the English. So how they explored America's ancient past. And then there's a book. There was this book. I saw it, and I didn't know. It just looked. I looked through it. This book that was at the Book Nook, and it was in the old books, and it was going for $4, and it was. It was It was called Art Young: His Life and Times by Art Young, and I didn't know who Art Young was, but when I looked through it, he mentioned different writers I was familiar with. So I figured he was a literary figure or a journalist, somebody in literary circles. This came out in 1939. And as I was looking through it, there was all these cartoons were like political cartoons and illustrations, and it had inside of it all these names inside in the book, and people I recognized. Frank Harris was mentioned here, Jack London, Sinclair Lewis, Will Durant, just goes on and on, Edgar Lee Masters, just all these people. So I figured he was in these literary circles among all these people. Anyway, who he was, when I came home, I looked him up. He was an early socialist, and he lived in Greenwich Village back in the turn of the century. And he was a cartoonist, political cartoonist for The Masses, which was a radical newspaper in Chicago, and then also in New York City. So it's kind of looking at his times, looking at it from his politics, since he was not a Republican or a Democrat. He was a socialist, and he was involved in all these political causes at that time. So anyway, it just looked interesting. And then I noticed when I was going through it, it was bought by Steve Jenkins, the one I just went to his house last month, and his widow let me go through their library and his library and take books out of it that I might find interesting. And he had bought it from Books from California back in 2019. Abe Books Marketplace, Steve Jenkins. So it was and it was going for $4, but online from $10 to $125 online. I got it for $4. So basically, the book you're going to look at. He's going to look at Art Young is going to look at American political history from, I think he was born in like 1890, in the 1860s, and I think he died in, I don't know, maybe the 1940s. So you're going to look at American history from his perspective as a social commentary cartoonist, and looking at all these literary figures and politicians, Theodore Roosevelt, and so it should be very interesting. It's an autobiography, and so I look forward to. I noticed that there was a cartoon in here, of Mother Jones. She was an early feminist. There's a very famous. If you go to a bookstore, a retail bookstore that has magazines and journals, you see Mother Jones magazine, which is kind of liberal, kind of political magazine. So it mentions Jack Reed, Mother Jones. Says Mother Jones came to Washington and told a congressional committee about the terror in the West Virginia cold regions. See, I picture her and wrote that it was not easy to portray that benign and yet belligerent face. When she was held captive by the West Virginia authorities, she said to them, "You can stand me up against the wall and riddle me with bullets, but you can't make me surrender." Wigham also did an editorial on Mother Jones versus Rockefeller. So he goes on and on. So this should be quite interesting. There's a picture of him on flap too. Let's see here. Art Young, His Life and Times by Art Young. So it should be kind of interesting. It was owned by the late Steve Jenkins. So that's what I got at the Book Nook. And so all kinds of stuff to occupy my mind as we watch Rome go up in flames. So I don't have anything going on today. Yesterday I mowed the front lawn. Last night our oldest son and his family who lived down the street, they came for dinner. Carol's gone. She went out for breakfast with a group of friends that she knew years ago when she was a nurse in New Mexico. who are retired and they live around here, called the Rehoboth Group, and they meet. They're all quite elderly now. My wife is 72, and these women are all older, and they're all retired nurses, and they all knew each other when they were just beginning their nursing career in New Mexico. So they get together about once every 4 or 5 weeks. So yeah, so I'm sitting here, I'm going to write in my paper diary, I'm going to read some Christian literature, I'm going to pray, read the Bible. My wife and I, we finished reading through 1 John in the New Testament, so we're going to read 2 John, 3 John, and then you read Jude, and then you go into the revelation of Jesus Christ. We're still reading through Ezekiel, the prophecy of Ezekiel at night. And after Ezekiel, you go into the minor, you have Ezekiel, and then you go through Daniel is after, Daniel in the lion's den. We all know that story. In the fiery furnace, Daniel in the fiery furnace. So yeah, not much else to report. My wife's going to be gone. My wife leaves next Thursday, not this Thursday. Next Thursday, my wife leaves for Denver, Colorado to visit our daughter and her family, Andy, her husband, and her 4 children. And I'll make some videos then, maybe show some more of those books I got from the late Steve Jenkins library. So I'm just hanging in there, just trying to just keep my eyes on the prize. Anyway, I hope you're having a good reading week. To pray you have a good day. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for hanging in there, watching my videos, watch me babbling. So I'll say goodbye. May the Lord bless. Did I tell you I got in contact with that fellow that I ran into at Grand Haven? I mentioned him in my Grand Haven Cheap Stacks video. We're supposed to get together this Saturday. He's going to stop by, and we're going to have sit down here or go someplace, have a meal, talk. So yeah, we got in contact. He emailed me. So I look forward to seeing him this coming Saturday. He's going to stop by, and as far as I know, that's the plan. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to meet somebody who watched my videos when he lived in Bangkok in China. Anyway, may the Lord bless. Until next time, bye.